everyone, welcome back to Community Matters with Icon Media. I would like to thank you all for joining us today. And today we'll be covering the topic Introduction to Family Violence. And we have a very special guest with us, and I will introduce her very shortly. But let's just talk a little bit about the topic at hand today. So, family violence is something that affects us in a big way. It has a lot of consequences emotionally, mentally, physically, relationships, careers. It affects us in so many ways. So, today we would like to get a bit of an insight as to how serious an issue it is out there, and also get some tips and advice on how we can manage them, what kind of help is available to us. As a victim and as a perpetrator, possibly. So let's talk about this. And before I introduce our guest, Dr. Saranbeer Kaur, I would like to thank her. She's very heavily involved with the community in the area of family violence. She works with several different organizations and trying very hard to educate the community and the society at large on how big an issue this is. So it's a serious issue. It's something that we need to educate ourselves on so that the next generation will be educated as well. So please show your support. Please share. If you have any suggestions, if you have any questions, please feel free to just reach out to us. And we're always here, always able to support you and guide you. So before I introduce our guest, Dr. Saranbeer Kaur, I would like to play a bit of an intro, and then she will be online with us.
What would you do if you were told you only had one day to live? What differently would you do? Would you rather spend time worrying about things, or instead following your passion, things that you would have loved to do for yourself? I'm Saran from Women of Wyndham, would like to share the strategies that I am using at the moment in this crazy time of social distancing and social isolation due to COVID 19. At the moment, I'm using my people skill to reach out to community who are in need.
Hi, Saran. Thank you for joining us. It's a great pleasure to actually be able to do this segment with you. So, welcome to our episode of Community Matters. So, tell me a bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Abby, for having me. I'm really honored and privileged to be a part of this community education program that you have initiated, and I applaud you for doing that. Thank you so much for having me. Um, yeah. In terms of my introduction, so my journey started from right from my schooling days when I had a lot of family involvement in charity and philanthropic work that my family was involved in, and they used to do a lot of work, not even telling us what my father used to do. And my after my father passed away, that's where we got to know that he used to help people in need, and also donate a lot. And people, when they came for his funeral. That's when we got to know that he even. So we knew that from right from the start that whatever profit we have to like 10% of that share profit goes to people who are in need. And my dad used to donate that money, and then also make sure that whosoever he comes across, if they need free education and stuff, he used to be the first person to do that. So I think that had an special, what you call it, as my dad has been my role model. So that's where I learned maybe. And then as I was growing up, I had my education in Catholic schools and stuff. So from there, I explored what my passions were, and therefore came into social services, and then had a lot of recognitions for the work that I used to do. So did my master's and PhD in social work. Thankfully enough, had opportunity to work in World Health Organization departments such as Department of Education and Early Childhood, DHHS, which is Child Protection. That's where I worked. Department of Immigration and Border Protection. We worked in different universities. So I basically had education side by side. Parallel to that, I was like doing my industry work as well. So I thought like in order to have that rich imparting that education that is like had strong foundation, I need to stay connected with my community as well. So I was like doing that kind of a work as well. So that is,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah.
So tell me a bit about, I know you're involved with quite a few community projects at the moment, which keeps you busy. So it's a privilege to have you on board here as well, on top of all that. So tell me a bit about all the community projects that you're involved in Melbourne at the moment.
Okay. So right now I'm quite heavily involved in working for family violence prevention of family violence project, which is through Victorian Sikh Gurdwara Council, which is a state level project, and where we are working on preventing, educating the communities, but we have explored like through researches. It was like through the Royal Commission, I would say. It was recommended out of 227 recommendations that we had for family violence, prevention of family violence. This was one that we have to educate our communities, even the faith leaders. So we are working quite heavily with Department of Premier. So whatever funding comes in, we try and discuss where it goes towards what side of project we have to invest in. So I'm working for that project, and we have had a lot of discussions with focus groups where people who are involved in the community have been themselves victim, or whether it is male, female, everyone was involved in that, to have those discussions and the areas that they need to be improved and how we could work. Because again, the projects are successful when we involve. There is a bottom up approach when which is like people who are affected are consulted. So we wanted to make sure that this is a huge success. This we'll get to know when we are in the evaluation stage. That is the project, VSGC project on family violence. I'm also involved with Australasian Center of Health and Human Rights, and then Women of Wyndham and Mental Health Foundation Australia as well. So these are the projects, and I've also registered Sikh Charity Club few years back, which is right now not that much active, but that's my project.
So tell me a bit about the recommendations. So do these recommendations actually come from the research based on statistics and stuff like that?
So are you talking about the Royal Commission
Yeah,
recommendation
so the
that?
recommendation that's being given to you in terms of the family violence project. So how does that come about? Is it research based? Is it statistics based?
Yes, yeah. So these particular this particular research that was that led sorry, the recommendations that came through a Royal Commission report were people through the people who were involved. Either they are professionals working in the sector, people who are affected, and most importantly, this came out of the this particular Royal Commission report was an outcome of, if you remember, Luke Batty's death, Rosie Batty's son. That was the main cause of, also one of the main cause of Royal Commission that was established in 2015. So definitely evidence-based and factual information that we have right now, and yeah, we are working on.
So,
Yeah.
so tell me a bit about how serious is the issue of family violence in our society, in our community right now?
Abby, the seriousness of this particular issue, we can see from the money that we are spending on it. For example, government spending billions and billions of dollars in reducing this rate. There is increase of 5% from 2016 onwards. Although there are a lot of funding that is going on into this particular area, but still it remains a huge issue where um, every every week we are getting the phone calls for how many people are hospitalized due to family violence, how many reports, and then also it is like we are running out of resources. The services out there, they're exhausted because they do not have enough of resources to cater for those services as well. So it is a huge issue, and quite serious in nature, and therefore like government is working on it
Yeah.
very.
So statistics wise, in terms of the seriousness, I know there's a lot of research always being conducted for this. So can you give me numbers or evidence of what we're looking at so that the community at large is very aware of the problem as well?
Yes, yeah. Globally, that we see is, as per the World Health Organization statistics, 2013, 1 in 3 women are a victim of family violence. When it comes to Australia-wide statistics, 1 in 6 women, whereas 1 in 6 women who have experienced physical and sexual violence by current or previous partner. When it comes, and in comparison, there is 1 in 16 men who have experienced physical or sexual violence. When it comes to emotional abuse, 1 in 4 women, and when it comes to men, it is 1 in 6 men. And when it comes to sexual violence under the age of 15, it is 1 in 5 women, whereas when you compare it with men, it is 1 in 20 men that we are talking about. So men are most likely to experience violence, but there is a difference. Although we see the statistics, so there is a huge difference there in the numbers. Men experience violence. Researchers have shown, like again, evidence-based, men experience violence most likely from the strangers and in public areas. And women who are experiencing, they are most likely experiencing through the previous or current partner, and in their own home. That is another
In
thing
their
that
own
has.
environment, yeah. And so can you explain to me the different types of family violence? Because we know that family violence in a broad spectrum, but then there's different types of it, different issues, different needs that centers around it. So if you can give me a bit of an idea of different types of violence involved.
Yes, so there are different types of family violence. For example, I am going to give you the gender-based explanation as we have looked at the statistics that there is a huge difference. So there is the gender-based explanation I'm going to give you when it comes to types of family violence. So there is a physical violence which is quite obvious, and we can see that there are injuries to it. There is sexual abuse that takes place as a part of family violence. There are threats that again is included in the family violence. There is humiliation at public places in front of the friends and family. That is also a part of family violence. Humiliation, then comes fear or intimidation. Sometimes there is yeah, people like they are very destructive, throwing things and breaking the stuff. So that's how scary it becomes. So it feels like somebody is walking on eggshells. That's how it is called. So that is the kind of fear the victim goes through. And there is a deprivation of freedom. There is isolation, controlling everything. So when we look into the types of family violence, we should also look at, I'm also explaining this through based on the Victorian legislation, so which is like Family Violence Protection Act 2008. That's what the legislation says these are the things. In order for someone to say that they are experiencing family violence, there could be these things that you can see the pattern in those things.
So
Yes.
pretty much it's like the criterion for how we process family violence as such, yeah. So
And now,
I know.
sorry to interrupt, recently dowry abuse has also been included in Victorian legislation, which is a huge win for us. So that was included recently, and probably in 2018, dowry has been included. So we are educating community. So that is something that our
That's
community.
amazing. That a Western country would include that into their legislation is an amazing act in itself. So
Yeah.
well done. So tell me a bit about, family violence just doesn't drop out of the sky. Someone just doesn't turn around and just becoming, aggressive or violent towards another human being. So there are aggravators that cause all these. So what are some um, causes of this? Because I know personally gambling and financial problems are one. So are there any other major causes for this that can offset someone?
Okay, so when it comes to aggravators, again, there is this is very much clear to all the service providers that we cannot go by just the aggravators. They are the contributing factors. Abby, we have to come as a community. We should understand that. We should be clear on that. If we go and say, look, this is what the cause was, again we'll be pushed back, we'll be told that this is not the cause. You choose to behave like that.
That's
They
right.
can be contributing factors, as you mentioned, they are aggravators, but we will not be able to excuse those people. There is no
Oh,
excuse for.
definitely. Yeah.
So there could be things like drugs and alcohol that can be contributing towards family violence. There are mental health problems. There could be disability that somebody has and they cannot figure out what is the right way when it comes to dealing with relationships. Somebody has gone through some abusive relationship in their childhood, or certain part of their development has been hampered. Therefore, they are not able to take right decisions when they have to, so they can be the contributing factors. So when it comes to family violence, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a major thing, and then family violence can cause the downfall of many other factors in your life. So relationships, families, career, everything else. So what are some main consequences that come from that? Like what have you seen, like the extremes of family violence other than, being hospitalized or mental health issues?
So when it comes to consequences, Abby, there are consequences to different areas. So it leads to death, it leads to severe illnesses, it leads to emotional and psychological trauma, right? So one person can have, like I had the clients who were not even able to stand some perfumes because it reminds them of certain people, certain experiences,
So
right?
this is
So
what we call triggers, isn't it, in
yeah,
psychological terms?
yes, and somebody used to say, look, sometimes I cannot balance my driving because I can remember the perpetrator used to drive me to 100 in 40 zone. He used to drive me at 100 speed to scare me off. So these are the things. Again, this is the psychological trauma somebody is going through. Huge impact. It leads to homelessness. Major cause of homelessness is family violence. People escape and they don't know where to go, where to seek refuge. Yeah, and then another impact is use of more and more use of drugs and alcohol. When you are dealing with such issues, then you are depending on certain things, right? And then it leads to physical health injuries. It may lead to long-term medical problems, terminal illness, as well as long-term medical problems as well. So these are the, I would say, the impact of. And then when it comes to children, there are specific areas. Maybe it leads to lower self-esteem, self-harm, aggressive, lack of concentration at school, dropouts, delinquency, child delinquency,
You know,
struggle
I
with going to school.
Substance abuse as a very young age as well is a very
Yes,
big
yes,
problem, isn't it?
yes.
Yeah.
Bullying behavior.
Yeah, it's a very serious issue in our society, I agree, and it's something we need to definitely bring out and then seek help for as a community. So, can you actually tell us, in terms of the victim as well as the perpetrator, what can be done? What supports out there? What help can they get in terms of both sides?
Okay, so when it comes to getting the services, we've got first of all, first point of contact is emergency number, which is 000. And how hard it is to remember. For us, I think working in the sector or somebody who's lived here for long period of time, we know it's such a simple number, three zeros, yeah. But I have had an experience where the victim, she's gone through that. She was abused by the so-called husband because she was in the relationship, but then she was talking because, again, as I mentioned, there is one strategy, isolating the victim, and she was not allowed to speak to her family. And for that to happen, the perpetrator used to have a control on her phone usage. She didn't even have the credits on her phone where she could call her family. What she was using was like social media, like for example WhatsApp or other mediums to call father or mother to see how they are, right? One fine morning, she calls mother to check how they are, and husband finds that she is talking to the mother, and maybe she is talking about their relationship, and that's where he got aggressive, and asked her to stop, and she didn't stop because she wanted to speak to the mother. But then he threw a very what you call it, something on her face where she started bleeding from her lips, and she was bleeding and she was crying. And luckily the phone was the she was having a video call, and her brother was instructing her, call police, and she didn't remember what the police contact number was. So it is such a simple three zeros, but then if you don't know, you don't know,
When you're
right?
going through trauma, yeah, that's right. You can easily forget, and it becomes it's just last minute thing. You just get flustered and you just don't know what to do.
Yeah, and
um,
also, Abby, because certain sections, because I think maybe I've skipped quite quickly on that, but certain sections are, when we talk about facts and figures, there certain sections are more vulnerable. And if so, that particular client that I'm talking about was called a background, first of all, and she was a recent, like, migrated woman. So she didn't know what laws are, what the numbers are, what where the help where she can get the help as well. Yeah. So these are the numbers. For example, police number, emergency number is the first one that anyone can use. Even if you've done something, you can call them up. Look, I have done something as a perpetrator as well. I need some help. I want to improve on my behavior. Sometimes I do not have control. That can take place
And
as
we
well.
have to, I think also, sorry to cut you off there, but I think we also have to mention the fact that we don't need credit on our phone to dial the emergency number. It is a free call from anywhere in the country.
Very good point. Yeah, that's a pre-call. So yeah, another numbers are 1800 respect, which is a helpline, national helpline for sexual assault, domestic violence counseling service. So 24/7, you can call that number. It is available for everyone. Safe Steps is the crisis accommodation service. You are in crisis, you need accommodation, call Safe Steps, which is 1-800-015-188. There's another, you can even speak to your GP. That is, like, if you don't know anywhere, you are seeing your GP for general checkups, and you can still disclose that you are going through something, whether you are a perpetrator or a victim, irrespective of that. Again, these are professionals now. There's a lot of training that is going on towards making having a sensitive approach towards family violence area. And then you have Crime Stoppers. If somebody is feeling sexually harassed, you can call Crime Stoppers on 1300 333 Another service for I think specifically for men would be Men Referral Service. This is which is a counseling service by ATV, and there is a nationwide helpline which is called Men's Line Australia, and that is National Line for Advice and Referral. Beyond Blue is for mental health issues. If you are feeling that you need some help and you are not in good condition when it comes to your emotional well-being, then you can contact Beyond Blue. That is for everyone. Beyond Blue
And
even
also
has,
Lifeline.
and then Lifeline, yes, that's the other thing that you can contact, which is like if you are suicidal or ideations you have, self harm, you can contact Lifeline as well. There is a specific service for called background people, which is called In Touch. That is specifically for culturally and linguistic diverse backgrounds that can help you with your um, that can help you if you are a victim of family violence. There is justice, best justice as well for legal aid if you need help with. That is for western suburbs, but there will be other areas where you can seek help. There will be free legal services
And
there.
I think also as a community, we need to keep a watch out for others. So, like if we see like a miscommunication or a mishap in the patterns of how we associate with a person, like a close one to us, we just kind of have to see if there's something going on and be compassionate and extend our support to them. I think just as a relative or as a friend or as a sister or a brother, I think it's very crucial that we check up on each other regularly and just see that everything is okay in the other person's life. What do you say about that?
Yeah, that's very true, and I am a huge advocate on that. Please do and ask, are you okay? Because even through the COVID crisis time, like people world was going crazy, and simple thing you could have done, ask your neighbor, because sometimes she might be struggling with taking care of a small little kid and juggling with her work, and all you can do is, can I look after your kid while you're doing work? If you do not have anything, that's humanity, that's something you can offer.
That's
um,
compassion.
Somebody who is not feeling well or going through a hard time, and you can suspect that there is something not right and something is not being disclosed, but you can always check on them, maybe offer some flowers or some sweets.
Because something I found is that when there's something going on in your life, whether it be violence or mental health issues, there's always behavior changes. There's always like changes to how you behave in public or talk or speak or just communicate with each other. So you can actually kind of judge those and see if that person is going through a change and then give those support. So that leads me on to my final question. What advice as a community member can you give to our community and society at large? Like, for me personally, I would say help each other out, stay united because we are stronger together. So, what can you offer them?
For me, how I look at it is like, because I work in the sector and I teach this particular subject to my students as well, and I always advocate that you have to build strong foundation. Strong foundation can be laid by having a proper primary prevention work that can be done. So when you come to primary prevention, it is like, um, are we inculcating those values in our relationship where we are spreading the chain? So, strong foundation. I am in a relationship, my child is going to see me role modeling. How do I see respect? How do I respect my partner? I'm not talking about perpetrators or victims. As a couple, what message you are going to give to your generations?
Just a positive outlook for the next generation.
How do you whether you discriminate those gender roles or not, whether you define certain specific areas to work in as traits of, like, so when you talk about those things, like, no, this is acceptable, this is all, pink color is not meant for girls only, or being a woman you do not have to just get shushed at, maybe. Yeah, so it is equivalence, like, so that is how I see would like to see my society work on individual level, where you can shape up individuality, relationship level, then community level, and society, wider society level. So community, as a community, somebody is has escaped violence, are you trying to give them acceptance or not? Because that person has escaped violence. Usually we are a society these days, we are progressing towards a lot of reforms, but still, as community, we have to reflect back: do I accept that person who has escaped that particular experience, or I am stigmatizing those
Yes.
experiences?
Yeah.
Am I?
Thank
Yeah, so that is a huge challenge when it comes to family violence. And another thing is, check, please do be an active bystander. And what I mean by active bystander is, notice the situation, interpret the problem. Do I recognize somebody needs help or is in need of help or not? And then, wherever possible, you try and act, whether the piece of advice or maybe intervene wherever it is safe to do so, and talk safely with that person, and maybe provide those numbers that are out there, for those people who are experienced, whether that person maybe can be a, I'm not, as I said, it's not about perpetrator or victim, it's about healthy relationship and healthy communities. That's how our focus should be. There is help available. Let's do something about our community, together, whether it is, majority of the cases they are victims who are affected by family violence. How can we support them better? How can we advocate for them better? Yeah.
That's definitely a huge thing. So let's keep working on this. Let's keep fighting it, and let's keep educating the society and the community together. I look forward to working with you further on this, Saran, and thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure working with you, and your insightful knowledge is great. And having you as a community member, not just locally, but then also being involved with the majority of the communities, that's great as well, because you do have true insight as to what the community needs help with. So definitely, our audiences, thank you for joining us today. And if you have any queries, if you have any suggestions, if you're in need of any help, please come forward. Confidentiality is priority to us, so we would help you in any way or form as we can, or direct you to help where it's available. So thank you, Saran, for joining me today. I think it's a topic that we can go on and on about, but then we are limited with time. So I know
Yes.
you have been ill today and you still managed to come as a guest, and I'm very appreciative of that. And thanks to Icon Media for this opportunity to educate the community. We thank you all. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, audience. Thank you, Icon Media. Thank you, Saran.
Thank
So
you, Abhi. Yeah, thank you for having me. I hope I've done justice, because I was like, trying to make sure that I stay, within the time limit. I had so much to
we
say.
are amazed. Like it's as I said, I can go on and on about this topic. It's a passion. But then yeah, we do have time limitations here. So definitely we'll be coming back to cover this topic sometime in the future. So don't go far. I will be chasing you.
Thank you, Icon Media, for having me. And it's an absolute pleasure of mine to be here and sharing my experiences. And thank you, Abby, for hosting this. I am absolutely humbled. Thank you again.
Thank you once again. I'll talk to you soon, Saren, okay? So here we are. Again, episode 4 of Community Matters has been finished, and we will be coming back on the 20th of December with episode 5. Again, we'll be focusing on family violence as well from a different perspective. with a different guest. So please come and join us on the 20th of November at 6 p.m. But once again, before we finish off today, I really want you to understand that family violence is a big, big problem in our society. So please help each other out. Please educate. Please keep a focus on the next generation so it's not such a big issue in the next generation. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I appreciate all your support. If you have any suggestions for topics to be discussed in Community Matters, please send it to info@iconmediaau.com, and we will definitely be talking about those topics. So thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye.